I'm sure you also know as Luca from UC Berkeley. Unfortunately, my co-chair Mohammed got food poisoning, so he cannot join us today. I hope he can get well soon. So today we invited Dr. Cindy Bethel. She's a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Mississippi State University. Excuse me. And she's currently serving on a temporary duty assignment as a program director for the National Science Foundation, specifically within the Computer and Information Science and Engineering Directorate in the Division of Information and Intelligence System, focusing on the human-centered computing program. And today, she will share some insights regarding funding opportunities from NSF and probably provide some suggestions regarding how probably you can take what kind of strategy to apply for funding. And she will be happy to take any questions from the audience. Yeah, thank you. Let's welcome.
Mostly I want this to be a dialogue with you, so you guys can ask me questions. I will go through a few introductory slides, and then we'll take it from there and see where we go. So, NSF is the National Science Foundation, and it's located in Alexandria, Virginia. This is a picture of our building. It's an independent agency that's part of the U.S. federal government. It was established in 1950, so it's been around a while. Thousands of employees, hundreds of program officers like me. Some are permanent, some of them are rotators, and covering almost every branch of science that you can imagine. So I am in the Human-Centered Computing group, or cluster, and so that's part of the core programs within NSF. It's managed by, as he said, the Computer and Information Science and Engineering Directorate, and I am in the Information and Intelligence Systems, or IIS, Human-Centered Computing cluster. So NSF loves acronyms like most federal agencies, so we use a lot of those. So SIZE, IIS, HCC is kind of where my home is right now. So we handle all proposals directly within the cluster, so they don't go through multiple groups. So who is in HCC? So we currently have 4 rotating program directors like myself. So I'm Cindy Bethel. I am on loan from Mississippi State University. My areas of research have been traditionally human-robot interaction, human-computer interaction, equity and inclusion and social justice, assistive technologies, ethical and responsible research. Tom Martin is on loan to us from Virginia Tech. He does a lot of making, design work, creativity. He's very much into textiles, and he handles a lot of the health informatics aspects of things. He's also co-lead for the Smart and Connected Health program. Hanwei Shen just joined us from Ohio State University. He's going to be handling some of our visualization, VR, AR, XR, all of that, and graphics areas. And then Scott Robertson just recently joined us from the University of Hawaii, and he is handling computer-supported cooperative work and human AI interactions. So those are the rotators. So Tom and I came in about 2 years ago, and Scott Robertson came in about a month ago. So they're brand new. We have 2 permanent full-time program directors, and one is Todd Lean, and he handles a lot of the human AI teaming, human AI interactions. And then we have Dan Cosley, who's our fearless lead, who he says utility infielder. He handles anything nobody else handles. So he kind of fills in all the gaps at the moment. So he's kind of a fun person to talk to if you get a chance to talk to him. So topical areas typically will change within HCC depending on who's doing a rotation. So you can be that change. You can serve as a rotator. So I would suggest if you do it that you're at a stage in your career where you can afford to take a couple years break to do that. So maybe not as a new assistant professor, but you get to higher level associate and full professor. And then it's an interesting experience. You will learn more than you will ever dream that you can learn about funding. So what is human-centered computing? So we are the centroid of proposals that have contributions within kind of understanding how people interact with and through computers. Humans, interactions, and computers should all be important in your proposals. So it shouldn't be just focusing in one or the other, but it should be a combination of all of those. It doesn't have to be equal, but it does need to be, I would say, fairly well balanced. Understanding and designing the impacts of computing for people in society is what we really focus on, and improving human capabilities with interacting through computers, with and through computers, okay? This includes many disciplines, and HCC tends to get a whole lot of different types of proposals, probably more so than any other division or club within NSF. And so if it has a human in it and other groups don't know what to do with it, they send it to us. So you may send your proposal somewhere else and it ends up with us. So we are kind of a combination of computer science, information science, electrical and computer engineering, human factors, and many other things. We do a lot with social and behavioral economics side of things, with science and technology studies, communication, psychology, sociology, economics. We've awarded in all of these areas. And so we are pretty open as far as what we will take. Some arts and humanities related awards that we've done. We've done domain expertise and targeted problem domains that raise interesting research questions. That's the key, interesting research questions. So as you can see, this kind of summarizes that. We support interdisciplinary research. And in fact, some of the calls actually will specify that they want to see interdisciplinary teams, not all of them. But we are looking to design technologies to improve human capabilities and quality of life. We're looking at the human side, the technical aspects, the contextual aspects. We're looking at different communications systems, their benefits, effects, and their risks. This is part of SIZE, though, so that's the Computer Information Systems and Engineering. And so there should be some computational component to it because you're coming through a computational unit. So our directorate is computationally based. If you're solely looking at the human side, then you're probably looking at social, behavioral, and economics or one of the other groups. So we look at human technology interfaces, such as what you see at UIST. We look at computer graphics. We do computing for creativity, so we have actually quite a few of those that have been coming in. Computer-mediated communication and collaborations, assistive and adaptive technologies, social impacts in computing, design, and then specific things that are just HCI that people think about. So domain-specific things such as healthcare, families, work, children, a lot of things like that. So these are not exhaustive. We cover, like I said, a whole lot of things. So I would suggest you go to the award search and look and see what things, if you're thinking about applying, go look at the award searches and see what things we've awarded recently. I'm going to go back just a second to the team. Oh, I talked about all of that. Yep, we're good. Never mind, sorry. All right, so a few high-level things to think about is think about the contributions and not necessarily the topic. So understanding and helping people interact with and through computers is really the key. People, interactions, and computers. And I think I just already did that, but think generalizable contributions, not specific applications as much, because when you get into specific applications, sometimes that might fall in a different program. So use-inspired research is great, but panelists want to know that it's generalizable. And so that panelists are extremely picky within the HCC realm for whatever reason. The reviewers tend to be fairly picky. So the knowledge that comes with solving problems and needed to solve a problem. So they want to know that it can be extended to something bigger than just a specific application area. So there's many other solicitations that connect to HCC. We do a lot of cross-disciplinary type things. So often with focusing on topics such as SATC, secure and trustworthy computing. I was actually a part of that group at one point. Smart and connected health, which is SCH. RIDL, which is research and technology for education. DARE, which is dealing with accessibility and rehabilitation engineering. M3X is sort of a combination of robotics meets AR, VR meets HCC. So it's sort of in the middle of that spectrum. CPS, cyber-physical systems, BCS, biocomputational systems, I believe. Red Dot is looking at ethical and responsible, mostly dealing with urban search and rescue type of activities or public safety. So always look through all the solicitations sort of and see what is the best fit for you. And then when you figure that out, then you probably want to touch base with the actual program director for that program and talk to them. So when you talk to them, it's really helpful to put together a 1 to 2 pager, we call it, or a white paper, where you're kind of summarizing what are your research questions, what are you investigating, what are you trying to accomplish, what is your sort of your process, how do you plan to evaluate it? It's like that 1-page program summary if you've ever submitted an NSF proposal. So you want to look at your intellectual merits and your broader impacts, and you want to make sure that you are kind of giving us a broad idea of what you're planning to do so that we can tell if it's a fit or not. So Dan Cosley, our cluster lead, did a really nice blog on finding the right program for you and finding the right program. So I recommend that you go look at that blog and see. He does a lot of really cool blogs. So within the core programs, and I didn't put a slide in on this program, which the small range is for 3 years up to $600,000. So small proposals go 1 to 3 years. You can submit anytime within a year. Okay. You can do up to kind of 2 per. Mediums are up to 4 years and $1.2 million. And usually those are multi-institutional. So you'll want to look at those as being more collaborative, the way that you're approaching it. And so those are, the deadline for those, I believe, is in October. It may be coming up like in the next week. I think it's October 23rd, I think is the deadline for mediums. So you're probably too late for the, so that's here. Large, we no longer have large program. It's sort of across all of 5 years, and I think $3 million, I believe. So, but that's a different program completely from what we're doing. Then we have career proposals, which are for first starting out faculty. There is no budget limit on it, but I would try to keep it at a reasonable amount based on what the guidelines are for what they allow for putting into that. And then there's CRII, which is for $175,000 for up to 2 years, and that is for really junior faculty who are not at R1 or research-intensive universities. Okay, and so those are a good place to start. In fact, the people that have done well with CRII have actually usually done pretty well with careers proposals as well. Okay, it's a good way to get preliminary data and to kind of get your feet wet on submitting proposals, but that is not eligible if you are at an R1 university. Okay, proposal writing tips. So you want to be crisp in your formulation. You don't want to be wordy. You want to find the key problem that you're highlighting and the technical challenges related to that. So what are you addressing related to the program that you're targeting for funding? So you want to be pretty specific about that. You want to have something that's carefully thought out and researched and put into the proper context within the related work and what's been done already. So have you done your homework with related to what's in the literature currently? What's the state of the art? That's something that reviewers will pick on right away, is they don't understand the current state of the art, they haven't reviewed these papers, and they will refer you, put references in there for you to look at. There needs to be a tight coupling between the identified challenge and what your proposed approach is. So you want to be clear and concise about what it is you're trying to do. Throwing what we call the kitchen sink at it, which is where you put everything towards something and hoping you find something, is not going to be the way to approach a winning proposal, okay? And so I see this often, especially with the excitement over AI. I will get proposals that come in that say they're going to do every machine learning approach that you can possibly imagine and hope they find something. That's not the way you want to do it. Somebody asked me yesterday, do you have to have AI in it? For an HCC proposal, no. You don't have to have AI in it. You don't have to have large language models either, despite the fact that that's really popular right now. But you do need to have a meaningful approach to what you're trying to do. And so make your contributions toward the problem clear. Also make clear what you've already done. The one thing I do caution, though, is if you've done preliminary work, don't make it look like you've done so much work that you are just incrementally increasing it with your proposal. And so you have to kind of find the right balance with that. You want to have credibility. You want to show that the project is feasible, okay? Often with new proposers, we tend to get really ambitious ideas that the panelists will look at it and go, there's no way they can do this in 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is. So you need to be sure that it's feasible to do what you're planning to do. You want to have a credible timeline. You want to have well planned out activities. You want to have a good division of labor between the PIs and your students. And this stuff's really about training the future generations. The students are important. Your roles of your collaborators, are they really needed? And you're going to need to justify that they're there. Alignment with the budget activities. So does your budget align with what you're trying to do? You also want to have, and this is really within HCC, panelists have become very, very picky about evaluation plans. So you want to have a really well thought out evaluation plan, and you want to have good measures of success. That's actually one of the categories for intellectual merit, is making sure that you have metrics for success. How will you know if you've succeeded? And then if you have parts that are dependent on each other, so if you've got phase 1 that you're doing and phase 2 relies on phase 1 being successful, what happens if phase 1's not successful? Okay, you need to have mitigation risk management in place that says, I can continue to do my research even if it doesn't work the way I think it's going to work. That's really important. And that's something I've seen panelists get really picky about lately. So it should all come together beautifully. All right, you only have 15 pages. So this is not a place that you do, like I tell my students, you know, don't give me everything that you can possibly think of and hope you're going to get some partial credit. This is one that you need to make sure that you're very focused on what you're doing. So the more you write grants, the better you get at it. And so work on your grants personship. Don't write a proposal the week before it's due, especially not career proposal. If you're going up for career proposal, make sure that you are submitting that to people that you trust to give you honest feedback at least 2 or 3 months before your deadline. So you should be starting your career proposals at least probably 6 months before they're due, not a month before. That's really important. And I actually had a conversation last week with a PI, and he's like, well, I think we did pretty good considering we started writing it a week ago. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't get funded, did it? And so you want to think about that. It's not something you want to just rush through and put together and hope for the best, especially not right now because funding climates are really competitive. And so we get a lot of proposals. HCC gets the bulk of proposals within size. So it is competitive. Sort of like your 24% acceptance rate at UIST. So you want to think about it. 2 little known strategies PIs are surprised to find out when they serve as panelists. That you can claim your recent publications as preliminary data and studies bolstering your arguments for launching a new plan or what you're planning to do. Facilities, equipment, and other resources is a supplementary document that you can use to describe, per the PAPPG, which is the proposal grant guide, things that you can't describe in your letters of collaboration. The letters of collaboration have very specific language that can be used, and you have to use it. And they can't say anything like a testimonial or anything like that. But you can put in your facilities, equipment, and other resources technical skills or aspects about those people who you're collaborating with that you can't put into the letters of collaboration. So that's kind of a place that you can add some things. So like, You can describe both funded and unfunded collaborators. Sometimes you have both. You can talk about what's the collaboration about, maybe the length of duration that you've been working together. What are they bringing to the project? And how are they going to work with you? So that's really important. And most people don't realize that you can do that. So how do you improve your grants personship? So there's lots of different ways you can do it. Some universities actually have grant writing workshops and programs that you can do, and some universities will actually hire people to come in and work with you to learn how to write better grants. Ask a program director to be a panelist or a reviewer. That's probably the most valuable thing that you can do for your grant writing, because then you will get to see what a good proposal and a bad proposal is. You can look at how those proposals are going to be discussed, so then you'll be thinking about that as you're writing it to make sure that you're covering those kind of things. So if you want to serve as a reviewer, which I'm getting ready to, I've got several panels coming up, so I'm definitely welcoming people who want to serve as panelists, especially for the UIST community, because I have a career panel coming up that we're going to be doing. So if you're a senior researcher, I would love to hear from you about possibly serving as a reviewer. In order to do that, you just send a 2-page abbreviated CV to me, or you can send it to our main alias, which I think I show in a few minutes. And then a brief paragraph about what your expertise is and what kind of things you feel comfortable reviewing in the body of that email, and then how important it is for your career development for you to do this. Or why would you want to be a reviewer, basically, on a panel. You get to observe your colleagues in action. You get to see what they get excited about and what things they jump in their enthusiasm, what things they kind of have deep concerns about, so that you don't use those in your own proposals. And then what were unforced errors by PIs? So what did PIs do that they didn't really think they were doing, but they really did not sit well with reviewers? That helps you to identify those things. Another thing you can do is ask someone you trust to give you feedback on your proposals, and not that you want them to come back and say, oh, this is great. You want them to redline it, is what we call it. Okay, bleed on the paper, sometimes they say, where they're willing to just rip it apart. And you do this about at least a month ahead so that you can have time. You want them to review it like they were going to be a panelist, okay, and give you their honest feedback. If you're doing a career proposal, do not give it to like 20 senior career people, because then I won't be able to find anybody to review for me. Something to think about. Learn how to take criticism. Develop skin now, because if you're starting out in your career, unfortunately, I like to say that you're going to get every proposal you submit and you're going to get every paper you submit. Doesn't happen. So learn to develop thick skin. I always tell people to wait a week after you get your reviews back, and then go look at it when you had a chance. You realize that you weren't accepted, then go take a break and then go look at it when you're in a calm state. There's often very good feedback that comes from those reviews, especially within our panels. I purposely try to keep reviewing loads light so that people can give really thorough reviews and give good feedback. When you reach out to the program officers, I usually say, for me, I say wait 2 weeks. After you get your answers back, then contact me after you've had some time to process. Then we'll sit down and talk through it. And I take very detailed notes when I go through, and I think all of the program directors do when they're in the panels, of what the discussion is. So it may not make it into your panel summary, but it will make it into our notes. And so we can have those discussions with you. So feel free to contact us. We are not the scary people. We are here to help you, and we want to be available for you, okay? Program directors are very, very busy, though. I get lots and lots of emails. So if I don't answer you right away, ping me again. You're not going to be upsetting me, but it's possible that it just fell too far down in the list, okay? All right. So that's kind of the high level of NSF and about grants. So I am here to have a discussion with you, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can. If you have other questions, feel free to email me afterwards, and I'm happy to try to do that. I will be here until Wednesday night, so just let me know if you need to get in touch, okay? So what questions do you have for me? One already. Okay.
Yeah, ready. Hi, I'm Alexandra Ayen from CMU. I had a question about, when you submit multiple proposals, that, everybody has like their research direction. And, there's like the current and pending, and then you describe that a little bit there to discern how they are different. But sometimes it also goes into maybe more detail that's hard to understand there. Do you have any advice for, saying like you have a, research agenda, and then, they kind of fall under a similar motivation, but are different parts that you propose?
Well, I mean, chances are you're not going to have a program director looking at all the proposals you're submitting. So we go through a process we call binning. So when all the proposals come in, we all look at them. We all read through the panel summary, or through your summaries. We go through and glance at the proposals, and then we will decide which piles we can form a meaningful cluster of proposals that would be easy to find panelists for. So usually 1 or 2 topics at the most that kind of cover that. So you're probably not going to have the same program director necessarily looking at all of them. If you wanted to, you could put a few sentences into your program description. If you feel like that, you need to justify that aspect of it. I think, though, you should really focus on having it be self-contained, and what is the advancement of this one? We're not going to typically look, and we are going to look at your current and pending, and you need to say if you're doing something that's the same. It gives you a box. You can put a few sentences in there that says, how is this different from what you've done, or what these other proposals are. And we do look at current and pending. We haven't rejected anybody necessarily because of current and pendings, okay? So we just need to know what you're doing. We need to know if you've got, NSF has a rule that you can only do 2 summer months per year, and so across all of your awards, so you need to make sure that you're not overextended. So we want to make sure that you have the capability and the time allocation to do what you've planned to do. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully.
It's helpful. Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for being here and like talking to us about this.
You're welcome. I love it. This is the fun part of the job.
Hey, Cindy. Thanks for a great presentation. This is Chen Zhang from Cornell University. So my question about more targeted NSF small. So at small, there's like rolling basis, and then the budget, there's a cap there, right? It doesn't like Korea. So right now, the cost of students really, skyrocket, going higher. We get a pressure. Sometimes we get 1 grant may not even be enough to feed 1 student. So sometimes, how do we balance between, we get suggestions that we will try 1 PI with small. So that means you may not have a lot of expertise on the PI. So we may put them as a collaborator in that case. How does, from an asset perspective, if you see a single PI proposal, but we have several collaborators versus have multiple PI, and single PI proposal get disadvantage in these cases, what's your suggestion to handle that? Thank you.
On the small, really I think we even say that small is 1 to 2 PIs at the most, because there's just not enough to go around. So we don't ding anybody basically for looking at having 1 PI, but having some collaborators to add some extra expertise. I think that's fine. In fact, reviewers have sometimes said they need to have a psychologist on there to do study design, or you need to have somebody who has other expertise that you don't have, or they're trying to do AI and they don't do AI, and they have no publications in AI. So you would want to, it's looked favorably upon having collaborators who can help supplement what you're doing. Does it need to be a full co-PI? Probably not. And I don't think I've not heard anybody have a complaint either way about the number of PIs, unless you have a whole bunch of PIs on a small and they're getting like 0.05 summer months per year. And you're like, how are they going to get the work done? And I have seen panelists say things like that. So you want to be clear about what the contributions of the people are and how you're going to accomplish the work. We have, if you need to cut budgets, we've sometimes suggested that maybe in the first few years of a PhD student, you only fund 9 months instead of 12 months so that you can, they can go do a summer internship, or they can go do something to get other experiences. And that kind of helps extend your budget some.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Hi, thank you. Very great talk. He already answered my many questions. So I'm Dayan from Florida State University. So I have two questions. So the first question is that you're saying that the contribution should be related to understanding and helping the human interacting with the computer, right? I want to know how you define the computer in this aspect. Do you also welcome like a futuristic computing device? Because many folks here, we work on more device probably are not popular right now, but probably could be very promising in the future. So yeah, so that's my question is that the do you what's the NSF thought about that? And the second question is that usually we write the proposal, we will have a different step, different component, right? And when we build the system for human-computer interactions, we could not ensure every step, every component can contribute to the human-computer interaction. So which means that probably part of the component will have a contribution on the system, but not understanding and helping the user. So do we need to justify how each step, how each component can contribute to HCI, or is it fine like one of the component probably contribute to the system more?
Okay, let me try to get the first one first. So your first one is things that are not really yet quite computers or futuristic type computing devices. There's no problem with that. It's a matter, though, of where stage of the development are you in? It's like if you're looking at futuristic systems, are you focused mainly on the system development? If you're focused mainly on the system development, even if it's for humans, but you're not really getting to the point where you're using it with people yet, that would probably be another division. If you're doing it that's focused on the human and you're doing things like a participatory design or an iterative design where you're bringing people in and you're testing components as you go, that would be human-centered computing because you're developing it for the human's use, okay? On the other aspect of this, the question that you had was, what do you do if you're more, I think, of a systems person and you're not directly contributing? Is the overall project contributing to the human's needs, to the human interaction, to the human side of things? If it is, then it's HCC. If that person, it isn't, it's the overall project, it's not the individual efforts, because we recognize as size that there's certain things that have to be done within the computing side and the technical aspects, and that most of the highly technical people typically don't get into the human studies aspects, right? And so I encountered that yesterday at demos a few times because people were like, yeah, I don't really do that, I just do the hardware. So, yeah, as long as you have that covered in there and it's contributing to the overall goal of your project, then it should be fine that that person doesn't go and run human studies, that they're doing the technical development is okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Thanks for being here and sharing this with all of us. My name is Huai Shupeng. I'm from Maryland, actually. So we're actually pretty close with each other. So actually my question is about rejected proposal. I saw your suggestions like contacting program officers, getting feedback. I think is really useful. So assuming I adjust my proposal based on the feedbacks and resubmit that again, am I going to get the same group of reviewers?
No.
Or no, and they might just have very different
It is
I need
always
to know how to address this. Or
yeah, it's always the luck of the panel is what I say. It's who comes together and sees, and some groups will have one thing that's really a sticky point for them, and another group may have some other sticky point. So you don't want to, that's why I say it's important to talk to your program director, because the program director can tell you, yeah, this person just kind of had a burr under their saddle for this particular problem. I don't know that you need to change everything you're doing because of that reviewer's comments, okay? Some things are critical elements that a program director can say, no, this really has to be addressed in your revision, okay? You typically, I've had very rare instances where I will have the same reviewer come back in another year, partly because of the reviewer, the rotator situation. Each program director is going to have their own pool of reviewers probably that they're going to rely on. So it's highly unlikely that you're going to necessarily get the same reviewers. But you do need to address things. And by having that conversation with the program director, we all take really meticulous notes during the discussion. So it may not end up that everything ends up in your panel summary, which for those who are not familiar, you will get your reviews from your reviewers and you will get what we call a panel summary, which is a summary of the discussion that was had. May not have everything in it. So if you call your program director, we can go through our own notes that we take and talk to you about some of the things and what we see as being the big concerns. And so we have a lot of ability to be able to share in that regard.
All right, cool, thank you. May I just ask one more quick question?
Sure.
For one panel in general, like you have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 of the proposals, what's the rate of 1 or 2 guys funded?
The rate of funding?
Like within a panel, let's say.
Well, we're not allowed to discuss funding rates, but I can say that we have a range in the panels. I've been on panels where there's not a single highly competitive proposal. I've been on panels where we have 5 or 6 highly competitive proposals. So what we do is once they are rated, we have a discussion across the whole cluster. And we look at all of them, and we discuss each one individually to determine what one is priority based on a lot of different factors. So we don't do a funding rate anymore because it used to be, I mean, when I first started doing panels, and I've done 21 panels as a reviewer, and I don't even know how many I've done as a program director now, but they used to tell us that, oh, we're going to select 1 or 2 out of every panel that we're going to fund. And that's not the case anymore. So there may be a panel that doesn't have anything funded. It may be a panel that has several funded. And it's kind of a mix. We're looking to fund the best ideas. We're looking to have diversity in the portfolio of topics so we don't fund 25 proposals that are all looking at large language models. We want to make sure that we're spreading that across.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi, thank you very much, Cindy, for doing this AMA. I'm Andrew Head, assistant professor at Penn.
Okay.
So one piece of advice I've gotten is when you see a great potential match of an NSF program, consider reaching out to the program director ahead of time, share a summary page, get a little bit of feedback on match. First question is first, do you agree with this?
Yes.
And second question is, if you do, how baked would you recommend one of these outreach messages be in terms of the summary document, the plan of work, given the fact that the feedback that you might give might actually be really influential for finding other programs or substantially revising that proposal?
Like I said in the slides, 1 to 2 pages pretty much should be where you should be at because we don't have a lot of time to sit down and just read through a whole proposal. So you want to probably be at a good summary of what you're planning to do, a timeline, what your focus, what's your research questions, how do you plan to evaluate it, what do you think your contributions are, what do you think the impact will be. So you want to just kind of have, like you would do your project summary. I don't know if you've written one or seen one, but you want to do basically that and send it to us. We can look at it and we can tell you, yeah, this is a really great fit for HCC. Or we can say it could be a good fit if you do this, this, and this and address these things. We may say to you, not really a good fit for this because it's too education-centered. You might want to look at RIDL. It may be that it's too robotics-centered or system-centered, and you may want to look at one of the other divisions within the directorate of size. So we really work hard to try to match the right proposal with the right program. We even have had to the extent that when we receive the proposals in, we'll read through them when we're doing what I call the binning process. And if we don't feel it's a good fit for our program, we will reach out to another program and say, hey, take a look at this, see if you think this fits with yours. If it does, then we contact the PI, and we'll say, yeah, we didn't think this was a good fit for our program. Are you okay with us transferring it to this program? So we will try to do the best possible way we can to match the proposal to that. The feedback having those sessions a good month or so before you plan to submit is probably really helpful to you to target your proposal the right direction. And so we're more than happy to do that. The closer it gets to deadline, the more people contact us, so it's a little harder for us to get back to you. So start early is the big thing. The other thing I'm going to say, though, real quickly before I forget, is those of you who are PIs and professors and associate professors and assistant professors, get your graduate students involved in writing proposals. Okay, start them out, get them involved in that process so it's not a big mystery when they get out on their own and they're in the first faculty position and they have no clue what they're doing. At least get them involved in that process while they're still graduate students. That's really important. Postdocs, same thing. So NSF has now added into their grants and proposal guide that you have to have not only a postdoc mentoring plan, but every graduate student needs to have a graduate student mentoring plan that's all in one plan document. You need to take that seriously, okay? We care about the future of researchers. We want to see you training the next generation. These are their career, so you need to think about how are you going to prepare them for that? You need to have professional talks with them. You need to have, we're actually doing an office hours on Thursday with this, where we talk about this plan. So make sure that you're engaging.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Cindy. I'm Joel Chan from University of Maryland.
Hi.
Thanks again for doing this. So in the spirit of asking anything, I'm going to ask a question that I think is silly, but hopefully is useful. I found the advice on how to get into the pot for reviewing and getting on panels very, very helpful and concrete. I'll follow up later. I missed the email address. My mental model is the things I'm qualified to review for are the things I'm submitting. And so there's maybe a conflict of interest thing. Obviously, I'm not going to review my own proposal, but I suspect it'll be binned with other things that I am also qualified to review. So I'm curious about your thoughts about sequencing, or if I'm submitting proposals, is that a time that I don't say, hey, I'm available to review proposals for HCC, for specifically mine? So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so I thought I had, let me see if I can go back and find where you need to send, oh, here. Generally send these to IIS HCC. You can send that also for your reviewer. If you want to be on a panel, do that too. And so typically you are not going to submit to every program in HCC at the same time, because you're not going to be doing a career proposal in a medium in the same year probably, or the same rotation, right? So you can still serve for HCC in another program. And sometimes, depending on the conflict of interest rules, as long as your proposal's not in the batch, sometimes you can be, sometimes on smalls, we will allow you to do a small even if you submitted a small, because it's in a different panel. Yeah. So you just need to check with the program director and tell them, and we have something in the system we can check to see if you have a conflict of interest that's not going to allow you to serve. But I mean, whenever you're available, I'm sending out 50 invitations to get 8 to 10 reviewers. This is how painful it's been to get reviewers. And we can't do this without your reviewing help. We can't give you money without having people who merit review. So we need to have that involvement in it. So if you have submitted a medium, you can still review for small, you can still review for career, you can still review for HR or CRII. You can do other programs, and so there's lots of things that you can do that your expertise could be used, I'm sure. So if you just want to let us know that you're interested, and we will find a place for you.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so Cindy, I have a quick one.
Sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned you don't have to integrate something like large language model to a proposal just because it is hot topic. But I guess it is also true, people tend to do so. So I wonder how in general such hot topic influence the funding landscape. For example, are you receiving more funding proposal integrate hot topics like large language model, or do the panelists tend to accept proposal with such kind of hot topic integrated?
Do they accept proposals that aren't hot topics? Is that what you mean? Or
Yeah, like other panelists intend to accept proposal with very hot topic integrated to it.
what you'll find is panelists are looking for like really well-written proposals that have meaningful research questions. And so does it have to be the hot topic? By all means, no. Yeah, we have hot topics. We can't put all our money into one hot topic. So we want to be able to spread that around. The key to getting a proposal awarded is to actually have a really well-written, well-defined proposal, and that you're have good research questions, that you have meaningful things that you're trying to accomplish, that you've got a good plan for it, that you have a good plan for evaluating it, and that you have a good plan for what happens if something goes wrong. That's going to be the critical elements. So panelists may be more tuned into a hot topic, but we have a wide range of panelists on every panel, so there's not usually bias in that regard to it. What you do need to do is, if you're doing a hot topic, you need to make sure you have the expertise to do the hot topic, not just throw words in to make it look like you know what you're doing. Have some publications that you've shown that you've done work in this area, show that you understand the terminology that you're using and not just use big words. We see that a lot where they throw every kind of jargon in that you can imagine, and you're like, okay, they've never published in this area, they're not using the terms correctly, they don't understand, they're doing multiple approaches just to try things, and that's not going to be a winning proposal. More than likely not going to be a winning proposal. So the topic is not nearly as important as the quality of the proposal writing that you're doing. And how well do you present your case?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions from the audience?
I will go back to my emails so that if you have more questions, feel free to email me directly. I will be around if you want to stop me in the hallway or whatever. I'm happy to meet and talk with you as well. I'll be here through the end of the conference tomorrow. So I'm here to be of help to the community. And so I'm handling most of the UIST proposals right now as the program director. So I'm going to be the one that will be trying to panel your proposals. So if you have questions, feel free to come talk to me.
Okay, if no more questions, let's thank Cindy again.
Thank you all. Have a great day.